This is New York Critical, where the only thing that matters here is New York. There are two critical times of the day, and arguably they're the most important times of anyone's day. It's not eating, it's not brushing your teeth or pooping. It's going to work and going home. And we love going to work.
It's a perfect way to start the day.
Over 50% of New York residents actually drive to work on a daily basis. No wonder we have traffic problems. We'll cover driving in another episode. This travesty of a video is about us, subway goers. The subway. You either love it or you hate it. Regardless of how you feel about your relationship with it, it carries us, 3.7 million riders daily, to work, then back home. There's a lot to unpack when it comes to the subway, the MTA, public transportation as a whole. And we'll get there. What this video is going to focus on is what we probably tend to forget about unless it's quite literally on national news.
Breaking news.
Thick and dangerous smoke, air quality alert.
Worst air quality. Ominous orange.
All of that smoke in the air.
Public schools were canceled today.
It's now thick.
Conditions growing even worse through the day. Lower Manhattan blanketed in orange.
Please stay indoors.
This was no small moment in recent memory. In 2023, our city was transported into a literal dystopian sci-fi world. Of all things that these Canada fires and the resulting smoke taught us, or reminded us of, it definitely brought AQI front and center. Back in 1970, the Air Quality Index, or AQI, came about in the US thanks to the Clean Air Act. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, rolled it out to give everyone a clear and consistent way to see how clean or polluted the air is each day. The idea was to make it easy for people to understand the air quality, what it does, how it affects their health, and what they might need to do about it. Fast forward to 2023, and the AQI kind of had its big moment.
I took notice of it, but it wasn't until I went outdoors and basically said, what the hell is this?
Anyway, the AQI takes all that complex data from all the air monitoring stations and boils it down to a single number that shows the pollution level. It mainly tracks things like ground level ozone, different types of particulate matter, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. Nasty. Okay, hold up. What are we talking about here, Tony? Baloney, huh? We talking about going to work, going home, subway, AQI? Exactly. During that trippy and eye-opening Canada fire moment, I thought about all the smog that you would see hanging over the city, typically during the summer, but also during the winter. I also thought about all the smog that you would see while waiting on the subway platform. The scary thing is just because there's not always smog, or at least you can't see it, doesn't mean it's not bad for you, which is a good thing to keep the AQI around for. In doing my research for this project, I didn't see any live AQI readings for subway stations. There were studies that were done in the past looking at AQI quality of the subway stations, but before looking into those results, I decided to do my own investigation. So I acquired myself a little fancy pants air quality machine off of Amazon. And, well, have you ever had an idea that you thought was great, so brilliant? Halfway through that project, you realize, damn, this was a terrible idea. Yeah, that was me. I picked our AQI monitor on Amazon. This is one that I looked at that gave us all the base readings like humidity, air quality, temperature, particulate matter. And this EG air quality monitor actually does an assessment and gives you readings based in real time. And that's done through a fan and sensors that are on this device. Sucks the air in, gives you real-time monitoring. So with that, let's review what this thing detects. First up, formaldehyde, or HCl. It's emitted from tobacco smoke, building materials, things that are burning, fuel. If you didn't already guess it, it's not good for you. Formaldehyde levels start to become a health concern when it goes above 0.1 micrograms per cubic meter. It can cause irritation of the skin, nose, throat, and high levels may cause types of cancer. The total volatile organic compounds, or TVOC, TVOC, I don't know. Total volatile organic compounds. It's very hard for me to say. This is a term for organic compounds that have a high vapor pressure to room temperature, which means it doesn't really take much for these to float around. It is emitted from paints, solvents, building materials, and it's not good for you. It can cause eye, nose, throat irritation, headaches, damage to the liver, central nervous system, and anything above 0.3 micrograms per cubic meter. Under short-term exposure, it's okay, still not recommended, but definitely will cause types of cancer. Then there's particulate matter. or PM 2.5. PM 2.5 is anything with a diameter less than 2.5 micrometers. This comes from vehicles, industry, combustion, and natural sources like wildfires. Now, these are particularly fun. Particularly matter PM 2.5. If you are part of the sensitive group, like a child, or someone pregnant, or elderly, or someone diagnosed with COPD, asthma, diabetes, moderate AQI range of 101 to 150. If you're exposed to it for over 24 hours, you're definitely going to see some immediate health effects. For the general population, high levels are 151 to 200. Again, same thing. Over the course of 24 hours, you will see an immediate effect on your health. For the general population, high levels of 151 to 200 over a 24-hour period, not good. PM 2.5 can penetrate deep into your lungs, get into your bloodstream, causing cardiovascular, respiratory, and other health issues like cancer. With a basic understanding of how this AQI monitor reads, how do you use it? First, we have to prep it. So, we have to remove the packaging and let it breathe so the packing material doesn't affect its initial readings. Calibrate it in a clean and open air environment, preferably outside. That calibrates for 10 minutes and then we're good to go. Except, I don't know how to change the clock on it. So to test this out, I decided to get a good baseline reading and went to Prospect Park. It was July 11th, 6:39 p.m. It was 86 degrees and AQI showing good at 45. To ensure a reliable reading, I referred to the AQI readings on my phone to see the current reading for the area, and it seemed like it was fairly accurate. Just a quick reminder, the AQI monitor that's in my hand is giving me the immediate surroundings, whereas the AQI that I see on the phone is actually giving us the general reading for the area. I even ventured out to a heavily trafficked corner of the park to see what the reading would be, and again, all looked good. Then I went home because, well, I had a full day before that, and I was exhausted. The first day of this multi-day survey was July 13th. It was a beautiful day. No, really, it wasn't beautiful. It was fucking humid, wet, gross. 83 degrees, 72% humidity, and that brought the real feel to 86 degrees. Ugh. AQI, though, wasn't bad, sitting good at 32. I knew that going in on a weekend was likely to yield different results from, let's say, something during the week. Different level of foot traffic, but also the train routes are going to be different. A lot of closures and rerouting due to signal modernization.
Don't lie to me.
So, we start our night at the highest subway platform in all of New York, Smith and 9th Street. This subway station gives us not only a scenic view of the Gowanus Canal, but it also gives us a good base reading of a subway platform not contaminated with what could be in the underground stations. Smith and 9th Street was dramatic, but it's for science. I boarded the Manhattan-bound F at Smith and 9th and went underground from here. I decided to skip Carroll Street, the first underground stop, because I was on a tight schedule, but I also assumed that the first underground stop would not show anything crazy, considering how close it is to the fresh New York air. So, Bergen Street seemed like a good start for the meter to show its magic, and here you go.
That's pretty good.
It's practically the same. Just kidding. There are some slight differences, but otherwise, it's good news. Getting off at J Street, there was a noticeable increase in temperature, with an overall AQI getting as high as 109 and even spiking up to 112. Fulton Street is the first stop in Manhattan coming from Brooklyn, and it serves the AC, JZ, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lines. This is where things get interesting. Right off the bat, it reads an AQI of 124 with a spike in other boxes as well. The formaldehyde, or HCHO, and the total volatile organic compounds, or TVOC, and it doesn't stay that way for long. It immediately jumps to 144, which is at the exact same moment that I felt a hot breeze just blow my hair back. You know that breeze. It's just like you're at the beach, but it only means one thing. It's at this moment that the AQI climbs to its highest reading yet, 169. 169. It dawned on me then. Of course, it wasn't obvious before, but it is now, that the hot air that blew my hair back was not the beach breeze. No, in fact, it was actually just the toxic air that accumulates at the bottom of the tunnel underneath the East River. Definitely no ventilation in that tunnel, and it gets forced into the Fulton Street station as the train passes through. After that train passed through, AQI levels didn't really change much. In fact, it only dropped to about 168, and then I just decided to get the fuck out of there. So, the results from Saturday night were bad. Very bad. For the sake of time, here's a snapshot of what my first night was about. Again, maybe weekends are different from weekdays, so I looked at my calendar and I decided, well, I'm going to go out again on July 16th. It worked for my schedule. Little did I know that was going to be a 95-degree day.
You are about to have a very bad day.
Tell me about it.
Okay, let's speed this up. Here we go again. Back to Smith and 9th Street. We're at the highest elevation with the optimal environment to calibrate the AQI meter. All looks good. 93 degrees. Yep, it's hot. Carroll Street, Bergen Street, I went right to J Street.
Trains are being rerouted on the A9. There's no power surge. There's no power on 6th Avenue between J Street and West 4. A, C, and F trains all running on the 8th Avenue line.
One eternity later.
Okay, we get to J Street. I really didn't want to spend as much time as I did on these subway platforms, but I needed to get my own results. And oh boy, let me tell you, they get better. At 125th Street, I got readings from the lower and upper platforms before exiting the station and walking west to the 2-3 on 125th Street. By luck, I got onto a car that had at least 2 windows open. So on my ride downtown, I got a decent sample of all the stations without having to leave my seat. Maybe I should have opened the windows going uptown.
Is something funny, asshole?
Yeah, that would have gone over well. What's actually crazy is that these results weren't even the worst. It was actually my third and final day of the investigation, July 19th. It was beautiful out, 82 degrees, 43% humidity, a breeze. The AQI was good at 36. The subway station with the worst AQI reading was Broadway Lafayette with an AQI of 224. 224. It did get to 227 as I was getting on the train to get the fuck out of there, but it held pretty strong at 224 for a while. For context, the highest recorded AQI for New York City during the Canada fires was 370. The second highest AQI reading in New York City during the Canada fires was 256. Broadway Lafayette on July 19th, 2024 was 224. It's not that far off. And just to kind of take everything into a little bit of a snapshot, those Canada fires, we were exposed to it for about 11 days. Roughly 7 out of the 11 of those days were in the moderate category, not good for sensitive groups. The extreme days make up the other 27%, or 4 out of the 11 days. Remember that I mentioned that this meter detects other things like formaldehyde? Well, formaldehyde is classified as a human carcinogen by the IARC, and long-term exposure, anything above 0.1 micrograms per cubic meter, increases the potential for carcinogenic effects. And the WHO only classifies short-term exposure as anything less than 30 minutes. But for a New Yorker, the average travel time on the subway to get to work is 40 to 50 minutes, and you could double that to get back home. And if you think that you're safe because, you time it just right, you get on the subway platform and you're only on there for 2 minutes and the subway shows up, well, not really. Not even if the windows are closed. This is not good. It's not good for babies, for the elderly, for anyone with pre-existing health conditions. What about the homeless that seek shelter on the subway platform, or the ladies that sell fruit and churros all day? Nobody's safe. And yeah, of course, you're not going to see immediate effects on your health unless you're exposed to it for 24 hours. But is it okay to be breathing this in twice a day, 5 days out of the week, 50 working weeks out of the year? For how many years? It's repetitive exposure. It's compounding. It's difficult for me to imagine anyone would say that this is okay. But it's also crazy to think that nobody's talking about this. At least until now. Hopefully.